I want to show you how functions can help you supercharge your segment.com data. Let's jump right in. Now let's start with the insert function. This function is added to any existing destination. In this case, the destination is amplitude, and it can modify the event payload before it is sent to amplitude. So it's inserted in between segment and amplitude. And of course, you can insert it typically to almost any destination. Now, I'm going to show you here on my screen. In segment, under connections and then catalog, or you of course have sources, destinations, and then you have functions. Now I already built them here, so I can show you what they look like. So we're going to open the insert function here. And as you remember, the goal here is really to normalize revenue that's coming into multiple currencies into USD. Now the way function works is it's just pretty vanilla JavaScript, so it's quite nice. And you have different functions, and they fire dependent on the payload of segments. So you can have this will fire on track calls down here. This will fire on identified calls, this on group calls, and on page calls, and so forth. Now in the function itself, and pull in whatever APIs you need or whatever kind of logic you want to do, we modify it, and then we pass on the modified payload. In this case, simply modify by adding a new, and that's the end of the function, right? You save it. You deploy it if you want to make it live, and then you add it to whatever destination where you want this to run and change. So very handy, very powerful. And again, once you get familiar with this, you can get this up and running 20, 30 minutes, maybe an hour, test it and stage it, deploy it to production much quicker than having this done by a developer where it might take maybe a couple of weeks to go through a sprint. So that's really the power to, especially if you want to make some of this, whether it's kind of smaller minor modifications to your data payload, and where perhaps you don't necessarily need a developer to do it because you can kind of do everything yourself in the way I did it here.